It's Ted from Marketing. I just wanted to give my thoughts on this game that we recently played, Community Game 12, in the community that Manix has set up for Axis and Allies. Volunteered to play this game. He's doing a whole video on it, so I'm not going to do a round by round thing. I'm just going to give a general overview and a general um, a general idea of what we were thinking on the other side, because I'm sure Manix will give you their thoughts on their side. This turned out to be a kind of unfortunately an uninteresting game. I would say it like that. There weren't any real big moments. There were some surprises here and there, but overall it was uninteresting, and that was kind of a shame, because early on, before round one, so just to give an overview, the players that played this, let me actually go back here. It's probably easier to do it like this. I thought in here we would do it, but these are who played. So senior veteran was on the team with me, with Stella Rosa, and the three of us, we got into Discord typing, right? Not in actual any voice chat, but just typing. And discussed a little bit about what we thought we would try to do in this game. And initially the discussion was like, and I think it was the senior veteran who came up with the idea is, well, let's try to make the game interesting, not necessarily go 100% for the victory. Let's try to do some interesting strategy that it's not really seen, because there's some more eyeballs on this than normal. So wanted to make it an interesting game, and it actually turned out to be one of the most uninteresting games I think I've been involved with. It just kind of happened that way. But so we talked earlier. It was like, oh, let's do like a wacky KJF, and let's do something unconventional, just to make it interesting. And we ended up not doing that. I think it had to do with Brush's round one was kind of the determinant of what we had to do. His round one was fine. I mean, I don't think it was great, but it wasn't bad. It certainly wasn't bad. He purchased the 2 tanks, which is kind of, I feel like, is now the new meta. It's kind of to prevent the Corellia stack, which it actually ended up not doing, but at least for round one you do that. And I mean, he lost 3, which is typical, and 3 of them, yeah, I mean, he actually had a pretty good Ukraine too, so like, he had a pretty good round. And Germany actually had, Germany was a weird round. Like, I guess round one is that they had a bad round and a good round at the same time, if that's even possible. So so Germany 1 destroyed 1 destroyer. Oh, he lost his battleship. That's where I would say it was kind of a bad round. So he lost his battleship. He destroyed the destroyer, but he lost his battleship. It's a pretty big deal. And he lost in Transjordan too. So those were against, both of them were against me, and both of them were tragedies for Germany, I would say. But and he took out a destroyer here, and this was kind of a wash. He took out my destroyer, but he won in Sea Zone 7 without losing a single unit. So there was 2 submarines, a cruiser, 3 submarines and a cruiser, something. There was a lot of boats here. End of round one. I think it was 3 submarines and a cruiser. No, oh, he actually went there, so it would have been 2 submarines and a cruiser. So yeah, it was pretty difficult to clear all those ships in round one, and it actually made it so that I actually only had 3 transports this game, which is not obviously not ideal. I had to have a 4th transport, but I could never get it up here into Sea Zone 5 where I kind of needed it, to put maximum pressure. So that was a big deal. In round one, I did forget to blitz this Libya. I should have done that, but as an overall idea, in round 3 we lost India, mainly because of T-Bone, which is, I love the name. I think of I think of George Costanza when I think of T-Bone, but that's just me. And it shows my age a little bit. It made it, at least made it for kind of a comical game for me, just as I'm thinking I'm playing George Costanza. But hopefully that's not offensive to this guy. But it is what it is. He made a lot of bombers. He was buying bombers for days, and basically threw everything, and I mean everything, at India. He did not contest this at all. It was just so I could not, without help from Russia, there was no way I could hold India, and I lost it in round 3. I think I retreated back to Persia, and we held him at Persia for a very long time. But I think again, and I mentioned this in my other video, in the introduction video, is that it's a lot more difficult playing the Allies with 2 other random people. So as the Axis, you don't, and I mentioned this, you can operate as an independent entity, 2 independent entities, and occasionally you help each other out. And actually, in this game, they helped each other out more than I've ever seen. Really, I don't know, ever seen, but more than what is typical. That they help each other. They land planes here. Germany landed planes here, and that's a pretty significant coordination between these 2. But that's the maximum coordination that you kind of need for for the Axis. Whereas the Allies, you're constantly landing things in other people, and and then when you have to do a retreat, you really have to organize that retreat. It's just a lot harder logistically to be the Allies, and I think that's, I'm just no surprise that the community game record, I think, is 9-3 in favor of the Axis. It's not a shocking stat at all to me. That's just how it is, and it doesn't have to even do with relative skill. I think, in fact, the other 2 players in this game, Senior Veteran and Stella Rosa, are ranked way above me. I think they're both platinum ranked, so they have very good strategic minds, and they know what they're doing in this game. And I think really my mistakes were fairly minor. Like I said, I forgot to blitz this, but I don't want to come up with reasons why I did it, but I guess it is. It's not an excuse. This is what it is. We had to have so much discussion about what we were doing. At least even in round 1, we were talking about so many things, I was going to do, so many things that Russia was going to do, so many things that the U.S. was going to do. That at the end of the day, I saw this early. I was like, oh, just let's do that, and then we had long-winded discussions about what we were going to do, and then when the time came, I went to go do this, and I forgot this one little piece of information. There was also some, I wouldn't say some, there was quite a bit of miscommunication between the 3 of us. And again, we're playing an asynchronous game with asynchronous chat. So the 3 of us weren't all in there together talking about strategy at the same time. It was, we leave a message, and then 2 hours later, responds to the message. And this kind of was a reason why I only had 3 transports. I thought that he had suggested to create an extra destroyer, which he did, and I did do that. But in round 1, I bought a fighter, and I think what he was suggesting was that I only buy 3 infantry and not buy a fighter, and save up for round 2 and buy an extra destroyer than what I was going to do. I think I bought 2 destroyers. I think he wanted to buy an aircraft carrier, 2 destroyers, and a transport there. Sorry, I think my headset cut out again. Oof. Anyway, buy a transport in round 2, and then in round 3 I could have taken these 2. That was the plan. I think that Stella Rosa was coming up with us for me to do, and because of that, I could not take that in round 3. I actually had to delay it a round, and that's kind of one example of just the miscommunication. I think even the departure from India was miscommunicated. I think by me as well, and not really. I mean, Stella Rosa wanted me to stay and fight here, but I remember calculating these odds and looking with the amount of bombers that he had, like I had a 99% chance of getting completely annihilated here in India. So to me, it was like I was like, I have to leave. I can't stay there any longer. In which I did, but unfortunately, because we didn't coordinate our retreat, there was 2 infantry and a fighter that was left in India for the United States because we couldn't coordinate our retreat, and those are all of these little mistakes are what can contribute to these kinds of losses. It's so hard. Even 3 great minds working at this, they're not like minds. It's just so much harder to play this as allies, and it's not an excuse. It's just a matter of fact in this game. There's not as you need a lot of coordination, and it doesn't lend itself well to asynchronous communication that we were doing, and that's just an unfortunate thing. I did build a destroyer here in round 3 just to prevent him from assaulting the troops here in Persia that I just pulled out of. So that was kind of that idea, in case anybody's wondering that. And then from there, round 3 when we lost India, that was pretty much the beginning of the end for us. We couldn't obviously never take it back, and we couldn't put enough pressure for him to leave one of these 4 open, or one of these 3 open for us to go in there. So again, they went for the VC snipe. Like I said, it's probably one of the more depressing ways to lose because it feels unresolved. Like I don't feel like there was any major engagement that we lost or that we won or anything that really happened in this map. It's just a matter of this India thing was it, and it was pretty boring. So yeah, it's just an unfortunate way to lose. I think I'd rather lose by losing Moscow or even getting sea lioned or something silly like that, because then you can kind of, oh well, that them's the breaks. But this one is just kind of a weird one, an unfortunate one. Went for Australia with his, I don't know how many bombers he had left. He had so many bombers. Oh, he has 5 bombers left, but he lost, I don't know, 3 bombers along the way. I don't know. There was a fight here in Australia where this brave Australian ended up killing one of the bombers, and then I had a bomber versus infantry versus bomber, the infantry on attack round, which I did record, and I might have. It's boring. The bomber ended up winning, but it was kind of a funny one to do. But anyway, that's it. It was a loss. Good game by all. Yeah, no one to blame, but just is what it is. Anyway, so I did want to discuss actually 3 additional things really quick. The first one is that I don't want this to sound like I'm taking away from their victory. They obviously had this plan. It looks like even from round 1 they had this plan and they executed it perfectly. So good for them, and I don't want to take any credit away from them. I'm just trying to explain it from our side. We did actually have a fairly significant counterattack planned in India. I did forget about this as far as miscommunication was concerned. There was a note that Stella Rosa left for a senior veteran, and he didn't see it before he took his move. And again, it's just one of those things with the asynchronous movement, asynchronous communication, and lots of things flying back and forth. And even in a chat, message, things are just going to get missed. And that was another one of the things we had a plan with some Russian tanks to do an immediate counterattack on India. As I was pulling out, or actually I was going to stay and fight and take as many troops as I could, and then the counterattack from Russia was going to happen. That was kind of the plan, and that was just missed, just from a general miscommunication standpoint. And the last thing I did want to mention is that, yes, I was able to save my bomber because I didn't have to tax these on 17, but both the U.S. and both Stella Rosa and myself lost our bombers to bombing raids. Our one and only bomber. I think he lost it in his first bombing raid, and I lost mine. I think, yeah, right here. Oh, I did do a one. Sorry, I did do 1 point of damage, and that's what I did in round 5. I lost my bomber. So, all in all, that was obviously a poor trade. We traded 24 IPCs, and I think, total, we we only took away 5 here and one here. So, obviously not a good trade. 6 for 24. So that was a big deal, I think. And that also didn't help us very much, but yep. Hopefully I'll be able to play another one. That'd be, yeah, and maybe hopefully it'll be more interesting next time. So, anyway, that's it.